Hi, I'm Movie Man. I'm an octopus who reviews movies, and today's review is going to be on. Now, this was a film which I was pretty looking forward to. Like, I did think this movie looked quite good from the trailers. Obviously, this is a new horror movie from Neon. I haven't seen like all of the movies that Neon has put out, but I've liked like a fair few of the ones that I have seen. Of course, I know obviously this film is based off of a short story by Stephen King. And well, I've never read this short story before, so yeah, I can't exactly talk on like how this movie adapts the short story. But I mean, also like what was kind of really mainly getting me interested in this one is that like as well as also James Wan being a producer of this movie. Of course, James Wan is quite a master of horror. But yeah, as well as him producing this movie, the main thing that was kind of really getting me interested in this film is the director of the movie, that of course being Osgood or Oz Perkins, and well, also as well as him being the son of the late actor Anthony Perkins, who of course was the actor who played Norman Bates in Psycho. But yeah, Oz Perkins being his real life son. But of course, Oz is a movie director himself, and of course, just last year, in fact, it wasn't even a year ago; it was 7 months ago, really. He directed the horror movie Longlegs, which of course Longlegs he also did with Neon. Of course, Longlegs came out last year, and as well as it actually doing quite well at the box office for a horror movie, but also, of course, you guys will remember my review that I did for Longlegs. Yeah, I loved that movie, honestly. Yeah, for me, not only was that like one of the best horror movies that we got last year, but also, in my opinion, it was honestly just one of the best movies that we got last year. Like, of course, I put this like in like my top 15 favorite movies of 2024, my top 10 even. Um, yeah, I loved Longlegs. I thought that was a brilliant movie, and of course, it even has a few nominations for the upcoming Movie Man Awards for this year, which the voting for that is actually starting pretty soon. Actually, the day I'm recording this video, February 23rd, it starts in a week from now. Actually, so if you haven't decided on what you're gonna be voting on yet, so you probably should start deciding soon. But yeah. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, not even a year since Longlegs came out, now Oz Perkins is giving us another horror movie with Neon, but this time being The Monkey. As I said, an adaptation of the short story by Stephen King. But yeah, as I said, I was looking forward to this movie mainly because of all those factors, but I haven't even actually gotten into my thoughts on the movie itself. I went to see the film for myself there 2 days ago. After me recording this, I went to see this on the Friday that it actually opened up. So I went to see this. the day of its release, the afternoon showing, having seen The Monkey for myself now, overall, I would say that I liked this movie. I thought this was overall a good film. Now, did I love this movie? No. Is it as good as Longlegs? No. Yeah, Longlegs was definitely a better film because I loved that movie. But on its own, I still think The Monkey is a very solid horror movie. Now getting further into my thoughts on The Monkey, first off, the cinematography in the movie is good. Like I will say I did praise the cinematography for Longlegs, and to be fair, with this movie being distributed by Neon, they do tend to have well shot films. And yeah, this movie is pretty much no exception. Like, yeah, this movie is like really well shot. Like there's all these kind of really like cool shots that we have in the film, like all like these kind of like close up shots and stuff. I like honestly, yeah, I do think it is genuinely like a well shot movie. Like I also think kind of some of the dark color coding of it is pretty good. And like yeah, like there's even some cool shots like the shot of when like they actually throw like the box that the monkey is in down the well. As I said, I think particularly kind of some of like the close up shots in this film are honestly really cool. Yeah, overall I think the movie's well shot. Now in terms of the movie's editing, overall the movie's well edited. Like they do some kind of interesting like with the editing in this film because like you know there's a lot of like cuts in the movie like when like we have all these different scenes kind of displaying everything going on and like we're being described some of the stuff happening, we're being described like some of these deaths and like the way they're like edited and stuff I think is honestly quite good, like especially even some of these death scenes are actually nicely edited. But like yeah, it's like even with like the whole kind of structure of the movie with how like it kind of starts with our main characters as young boys and how it transitions into them as adults, like I thought like how they achieved that with the editing was quite good. And like yeah, overall I have to say I did like the way the movie was edited and like how it went with like the whole kind of structure and narrative. Like they did it in kind of like a bit of an interesting way. That they did at times. Honestly, I thought it was quite good. They had like the kind of like editing structure that like you might see in like one of those movies where like you know the main characters narrating and like they're describing a bunch of stuff happening. It kind of reminded me of Goodfellas a bit and how it was edited. I know that might be a bit of a weird comparison, but I kind of got a bit of that vibe from it. Yeah, overall, the editing in the movie was very good. Now, in terms of the film's pace, this movie isn't too long. Like, the movie is an hour and 38 minutes, so this being a 98-minute long movie, this is not like too long of a film, and to be honest, I think the movie is actually paced quite well. Like, you know, we start off the movie, like, well, our main characters, like, we're introduced to kind of everything, and, like, the amount of time that we spend on certain things, I think we honestly get, like, about enough time spent, like, with the main characters as kids, like, maybe we could have had like a little more of it, because it does go by a bit quickly, but then, like, we see them as adults then, and, kind of just pace a little more normally, but it still is, like, a fairly kind of fast-paced movie, so, yeah, I didn't really feel the runtime, honestly, with this one. I honestly thought, like, it did go by quite quickly, but yeah, honestly, overall, I will say, like, it was, well-paced, and, like, even with it going a bit quick, I don't think it quite went, like, too quickly to where, like, the movie feels like it rushes over things. I think we get, like, enough time spent on everything, so, like, where, like, we get, like, amounts of things that we need. Yeah, so, like, I feel like maybe it was just a bit too quick, but nonetheless, overall, the pacing in the movie was quite good as well. In terms of the sounds and music, I do think the movie actually has good sound effects. Like, particularly when we hear this little monkey, like, bang his little drums. I thought that aspect especially was really well done. Cause, like, it actually is genuinely pretty suspenseful, like, as the little monkey's just banging the drums, and we're slowly being built up towards whoever's about to get killed in a horrible way. I thought that was well executed, but even, like, some of the other, like, little sound effects that we have in the movie were pretty well done, but especially the little banging of the drums, I thought that was executed very well in particular. So yeah, I think overall the sound effects in the movie are quite good, and the music in the movie also is quite good as well. Like, I think overall the movie has a pretty solid, like, little score. It's nothing amazing, but, it's a decent score. But, like, even, like, kind of some of this really kind of classic, like, old timey music that we do here in the movie, like, we do hear, like, the song "Let the Good Times Roll." That's kind of a really old song that, of course, was featured in the movie's trailer, and yeah, we do hear that song a bit in the movie, and I think it's a good song. I overall think, like, it really does fit well, like, with, like, the feel of the movie. Yeah, overall, I have to say the sound and music in the movie was honestly pretty good. There are some visuals that we get in the movie, like, I won't, like, guess too much into them, but yeah, some of these visuals aren't the best. I mean, don't get me wrong, some visuals are alright, but, like, others aren't great. Like, for example, like, I won't spoil it, but, like, there's one scene in this, like, kind of in the climax that, like, involves, like, this swarm of wasps. We do see, like, the little, like, shot of the wasps, and it's not very good visuals, and it's this one, like, CGI thing, like, kind of towards the very end of the movie. Again, I won't give it away, but yeah, the CGI that they had for it was, honestly quite bad in my opinion. But other than that, like, the visuals aren't really the best. But to be fair, I don't think they're, like, really too distracting, if I'm going to be honest. Now, like, in terms of the characters and the acting, the movie focuses on these main two characters, these two twin brothers named Bill and Hal. And of course, we see them at the start of the movie when they're both kids. And, like, we see the two of them as adults. I will say they were quite interesting characters. Like, Hal, he's really, like, the main of the two. He's the main character that the movie focuses on, and he made for a solid protagonist. Like, Hal is the one that, is narrating the movie, and, like, we really focused the movie on his character in particular. And I overall thought he did make for a solid protagonist. The way that he's describing everything and stuff is actually interesting to watch. And his brother Bill is definitely the meaner of the two brothers, because he's kind of bullying his brother a bit, with how he's I think 3 minutes older than Hal, and he's always kind of trying to make himself out to be the better of the two. Particularly when he's a kid character, I do find him pretty entertaining. But of course, what's interesting is that with Bill and Hal both being twin brothers, they're actually played by the same actors, both when they're a kid and when they're an adult. Now, obviously, when they're kids, they're played by Christian Convery, who I have to say is honestly really good in this film. I have to say, Christian Convery, he does genuinely a really good job in terms of playing both of these brothers. The way he plays Hal and the way he plays Bill, I think he really does nail both of their personalities, and how he's even able to differentiate the two of them in their own right. I thought he honestly did a really good job with that. And now then, when Bill and Hal are older, then they're both played by Theo James. Now, in terms of the performance from Theo James, his performance as Hal, overall, I thought he did a solid job. I don't think he's really much of an actor really does very well emoting and stuff, but some of his really awkward reactions when he's witnessing these people ending up getting killed because of the monkey, I think that actually works pretty well in terms of really getting the kind of awkwardness of the scenes. So I think he does pretty well as Hal. Now, his performance as Bill, I can't really get too much into it, because I'm not gonna go into spoiler territory, but the way he kind of tries to portray Bill, he definitely kind of goes for something a little OTT. If you know what I'm saying. He tries, but I do think it kind of didn't entirely work for me. I know it just kind of came across as a little goofy for me, honestly. With how he portrays Bill. I just didn't think it entirely worked, but I thought he did a solid enough job as Hal. But overall, I was mainly able to get behind Bill and Hal's character as well. Bill, I was a little more mixed on, but I thought Hal was solid. The performance from Theo James, I'm a little mixed on, but Christian Convery, though, as the young Bill and Hal, he did really good, I will say. I won't really talk about, some of these other characters in specific detail, but I will say a lot of the supporting cast does really well in terms of what they're given. For example, we also have Tatiana Maslany in this movie. A lot of you will probably know her as She-Hulk. But yeah, she has a role in this as their mother, Lois. And I will say, I did think, she was actually quite good in this with the brief screen time that she has. Like, I actually thought she genuinely did well in this. Like, even like some of like the performances from like some of these other supporting actors were quite good. It's like even Oz Perkins himself does actually have a brief like kind of cameo in the movie. And yeah, he actually does genuinely pretty well for even for just this cameo role that he has. A lot of these actors kind of really only have like one scene or so, but they do well in those scenes. Like Adam Scott has a brief role in this, even like as the boy's father. It's only at the beginning of the movie, but he does well in this brief role. And like there's also this one priest character who appears at like some of these funerals. Oh boy, the scenes with his character, like they're just so awkward, but like it actually just makes you laugh. Yeah, he was a funny character for the brief screen time he has. And what's interesting is that like even Elijah Wood briefly shows up in this. Yeah, that's right. Frodo Baggins himself, Elijah Wood, has a brief role in this movie. Now, all I'll say is, do not go into this movie expecting him to be in it much, because I kid you not, I think he only has one scene in the whole movie. I'm not really sure like why like they got Elijah Wood literally just for one scene, but to be fair, he did do pretty well just for that one scene that he has. But yeah, overall I have to say like a lot of the supporting cast like actually did pretty well in this, even if some of them like didn't have a whole lot of screen time. The characters were solid and the acting was pretty solid as well. Yeah, so I thought that this whole aspect of the movie was pretty good. Now like in terms of the movie's plot, like the movie does have an interesting premise. Now obviously the movie's based off of a short story by Stephen King. And like yeah, the movie, it has an interesting premise, because the two boys, they find this toy monkey that belongs to their father, and they put the key in, they wind the monkey up, and the monkey starts playing his little drums. But the catch is, whenever, they play the monkey, someone ends up dying brutally. It's definitely is, the kind of concept that someone like Stephen King would come up with, because like, yeah, obviously this is a really sort of like wacky premise. And like, yeah, like here's the thing, this movie definitely knows like how like out there, how just utterly wacky this whole concept is. And I like how the movie just embraces that, because it is definitely a really like out there horror film. Because like here's the thing, this movie isn't really scary, if I'm gonna be honest. Like, this isn't the kind of horror movie that you're gonna be scared by. This actually more of a funny horror film, if anything, because like, I will say, I actually do find it quite interesting that this movie is from the same director as Longlegs, because obviously with Longlegs, that was definitely more of like a real kind of a serious, like, slow burn, like, crime horror film, whereas this movie's more of like just a really like insane, wacky, comedic horror film. And yeah, but I will say it's definitely really interesting, and the movie definitely, it does embrace how utterly insane it all is. Like oh boy, the kills in this movie, they're just like really, out there, like really kind of graphic, brutal kills. Like, what I find interesting is that over here in Ireland, this movie is rated at 15A. Like, I'm actually surprised the movie only has a 15A rating, because even for a 15A, this movie is actually quite out there. Like, oh boy, like some of these kills are like actually quite gruesome and stuff, and like just like in terms of how they all happen and stuff, like, so obviously even though these people are literally being killed in really brutal ways, you honestly just can't help but kind of laugh at it a bit and stuff, and like even like like with the way they're like showing everything, the way all these kills are just happening, like oh boy, like this movie is definitely kind of similar to Final Destination a bit. Like if you've ever seen the Final Destination movies, like some of the kills in this like definitely do give off kind of some Final Destination vibes for sure, which I do find pretty interesting considering that obviously now there in May we're actually getting the new Final Destination movie, but yeah, it's funny, you could kind of argue that we're technically getting two Final Destination movies with how kind of similar this movie kind of is to Final Destination a bit in terms of the kills, like, because they're just so like insane and graphic, and like there's just a bit of a comedic feel to it all, and yeah, I did find myself giggling a little bit at like some of these kills, even like especially there's one kill at like the very end of the movie, which I am obviously not going to give away, but oh boy, this last kill actually did have me chuckling a little. Just like it's all just so like random and stuff that like you can't help but just laugh at it, but overall, I will say, like, as a horror comedy, the movie does do pretty well with that, and like there is some kind of themes in this movie about like what like kind of like trauma that has been like kind of passed down from generations and stuff. Like I thought it was executed pretty decently. Now, admittedly, like I will say, kind of as the movie goes into like the third act, the movie does kind of start to forget about some of that a bit. But like, from all the bit that we did get, I thought was pretty well handled. But overall, I did enjoy like the plot of the movie, just like as this horror comedy. I thought was honestly well executed. If you just go into this movie, knowing what it is, just like a really like insane, wacky horror comedy, I think you'll honestly enjoy it. In terms of the narrative structure, like because like the movie doesn't exactly have like the most linear narrative, because we start off the movie with our main characters as kids, and they first experience the monkey and they're witnessing all these deaths. Then like they eventually get rid of the monkey, but then the movie cuts to like 25 years later when we see the both of them as adults now, and like then of course when the monkey comes back and the kills start happening again, and like yeah, I will say like, the narrative of it isn't exactly the most linear, but it does connect together pretty well. Of course, it mainly does focus on Hal, who is the main protagonist. Obviously, he's the one who narrates the whole movie. I thought all that was well executed and stuff. But like yeah, even kind of like some of this little kind of side stuff going on with like some of these other like characters and stuff. Like overall, I do think like it fits into the main narrative pretty well. Now, granted, I don't think like it's like as it says, like the most like very clear narrative. Like it does get a little like jumbled up, I feel. But nonetheless, overall, I thought the movie did a decent job in terms of, like, connecting everything together. Like, ultimately, the movie does focus mainly on Hal and, him trying to, like, just get rid of this monkey. They overall did a solid job with that. Not an amazing job, but a solid enough job. So I thought the narrative structure was good enough. But yeah, so overall, The Monkey was a pretty good film. It was a fun, wacky, insane horror movie. Like, it was a fun time. There was actually some genuinely good humor in there and some brutal, yes, kind of entertaining kills. There was some solid acting in there, especially from Christian Convery. The monkey itself also is a pretty fun, little horror film. He's so creepy yet kind of funny at the same time. And it's shot well, it's paced well, and there's some solid sound effects and music. Overall, I liked the movie well enough. Now, I don't think it's amazing. As I said, there are some issues I have with the film, and overall, I don't think it's as good as Longlegs. But on its own, I thought it was a solid horror movie. And if you're like a fan of like horror comedies, and if you're a fan of like the Final Destination movies, right, you just want to watch something with some like insane, like brutal kills, but like also something that probably like give you a bit of a laugh. Overall, I think this one is worth a watch. So I wouldn't say I loved the movie. Overall, I had a pretty good time with it. So with all that said, I am going to give The Monkey a 7 out of 10. So with all that said, I'll see you guys next time, and bye.